Power begins not in action, but in perception. What a man believes he sees matters more than what stands before him. The ego is the lever pride, the fulcrum. You do not bend nations with truth, you bend them with mirrors. Every ruler learns this too late. Loyalty is not born from gratitude. Gratitude decays. It is a fading echo, quickly drowned by opportunity. Men are loyal only while they feel dependent. Once they believe they have outgrown you, they forget the hand that lifted them. They become wolves with softened muzzles, waiting for the leash to loosen. The moment it does, they bite. So feed them praise, inflate their self-image, let them believe their strength is their own, that their rise was natural, inevitable. Do not interrupt their delusion, make it a crown they wear proudly. The heavier it gets, the more it blinds them, and then, at the moment, they mistake themselves for sovereigns you strike. Power is not seized through confrontation. It is taken through orchestration. War is not won by muscle but by mind, by the quiet placement of doubt, by the crafting of threats invisible until it is too late to react. The art of leadership lies in constructing inevitability, not the illusion of choice, the absence of it. Understand this. Man does not fear pain. He fears consequence. Pain is immediate, tangible. But consequence, that is the ghost that haunts every ambition. The idea that an action, once taken, cannot be undone. That is what restrains the bold and silences the reckless. So make your enemies believe they are free, that they move of their own will, that their betrayal is a strategy, not a mistake. Let them taste the thrill of rebellion, and then, once they are fully exposed, remind them of what they forgot. That power does not forget. It watches, accumulates, and waits for the moment to become fate. There is no purity in politics. There is only function. What does not serve decays. The ruler who clings to principle over necessity soon finds his throne made of paper, his laws whispered rather than enforced. Morality is a story the weak tell to soften the world. The strong write their own myths, tailored to their ambition. But beware, control is not domination. The brute who shouts is always the first to be silenced. Authority must feel effortless. The more force you display, the more insecurity you confess. Rule through alignment or the illusion of it. Make them believe your rise is theirs, that your strength protects, not oppresses, that your victories were won for them. In truth, all rule is coercion masked as order. The masses do not seek justice, they seek predictability. Give them rhythm, and they will forget the tune was written without them. Give them symbols, and they will forget the cost of the silence that surrounds them. Give them enemies, and they will love you for keeping the wolves outside, never realizing you raised the pack. No system endures without scapegoats. No state survives without theater. The leader must play many roles: father, executioner, savior, God. You must weep when needed, but never feel. You must listen, but never absorb. Your empathy must be calculated, not real. Real empathy is a crack in the architecture. It leaks, and over time it drowns you. Do not fight betrayal, expect it. It is not the exception, it is the rhythm of statecraft. The only surprise should be how long it took. Those closest to you are not loyal, they are useful. Never confuse proximity with fidelity. A smiling man is a waiting knife. To rule is to anticipate, to see 5 moves beyond the veil. If your enemy is clever, let him believe he is a genius. If he is weak, give him a taste of power. Neither will see the trap if it flatters them, but once sprung, do not hesitate. Mercy, if wielded without purpose, invites weakness. But if shown sparingly and strategically, it strengthens loyalty and tempers fear. A prince must seem merciful, yet act firmly when necessity demands it. The mob forgives a tyrant more easily than a fool. Control the frame. He who controls the narrative never needs to prove the facts, and when facts betray, you drown them in noise. Confusion is a weapon. It buys time. It splinters resistance. It replaces certainty with fatigue. And in fatigue, people do not seek truth, they seek relief. Ambition is a fire. feed it too quickly, it burns wild. Starve it, and it turns inward. The art is in keeping it just hot enough so they move, but always toward you. Let them dream of greatness, but define the boundaries of that dream. Give them winds that serve your architecture. Make them feel seen, and you will never be seen clearly in return. All politics is betrayal delayed. The longer you can defer it, the more complete your reign. The moment someone believes they owe you nothing, they owe you ruin. This is not bitterness, it is structure. A ruler does not blame nature for the storm. He builds for it. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the managed distribution of threat. You do not eliminate rivals, you measure their usefulness. A weakened enemy is often more valuable than a loyal friend. Friends become obligations. Enemies sharpen your instincts. Remember, most people do not want freedom. They want protection. They do not crave truth. They crave reassurance. Tell them the world is dangerous, and they will follow the man who promises to kill the dragon, even if the dragon never existed. Especially then, control perception, shape expectation, engineer dependency. That is the foundation, but above all, understand consequence. Every move sets in motion a sequence that cannot be undone. You do not play power. Power plays you back. So you bait them with ego. You make them believe they are rising, becoming, ascending, and then when the moment demands it, you break them, not out of cruelty, not out of revenge, but because the machine demands parts, and some parts rust. The throne does not forgive softness. It rewards clarity, and clarity means understanding this. Power is not the enemy of virtue. It is its revealer. What you do when you have command is what you were always meant to do. The mask falls. The truth remains. And in that truth, stripped of illusion, you learn the final lesson. You were never here to be loved. You were here to endure. You do not rise by being understood. You rise by being indispensable. The more they need you, the less they question you. So you make yourself the hinge of every door, the hand behind every curtain. You give just enough to keep them leaning, never enough to let them stand alone. They will call this manipulation. Let them. The lion does not ask the gazelle to understand its hunger. It simply feeds. The illusion of transparency is a tactic. Confession disarms suspicion. If they believe you have no secrets, they stop looking. So give them fragments, curated weaknesses, theatrical flaws. Show them your wounds, but never your intentions. The moment they believe they've seen the whole of you, you are free to move beneath their gaze. That is control, not through dominance, but through misdirection. There is no clean path to power. Every ascent leaves blood beneath the stones. What matters is not the blood, but how quickly it dries. The world forgets pain faster than it forgets spectacle. If you must strike, do it boldly. Do not apologize. Regret is not a virtue. It is an admission of uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds rebellion. People follow not because they agree, but because they fear isolation. Align their fear with your vision. Let them believe deviation is exile. Shape the culture, and the need for enforcement diminishes. A population that polices itself is the most stable form of tyranny. You do not rule through chains. You rule through consensus, even if you wrote it yourself. Never waste a crisis. Disorder reveals character. It exposes loyalties, fractures alliances, and makes the unthinkable possible. In moments of chaos, new rules can be written, and once written, they become memory. No one questions the birth of order when it ends their panic. People will accept anything if it feels like salvation. The governed do not need to understand your strategy. They only need to believe in its inevitability. Speak in certainties, even when you doubt. Doubt is a luxury of the powerless. A ruler doubts in silence and acts in absolutes. Every hesitation is a vote of confidence for your enemies. Power does not corrupt. It reveals the architecture of the soul. Give a man command, and you will see the blueprint of his being. What he builds, a kingdom or a tomb, is determined by the war between his hunger and his discipline. Most build monuments to their insecurity, not to their vision. That is why so few endure. To be feared is not the same as to be hated. Hatred festers, fear organizes, but fear must be clean, efficient, justified in appearance. If your hand strikes too often, too erratically, it begins to tremble. Your punishments must be rare but seismic, enough to be remembered, enough to echo. Your enemies will multiply faster than your victories. Every success breeds resentment. Every failure becomes a prophecy, so you must outpace their narratives, rewrite your defeats into stepping stones, bury their triumphs beneath questions, never allow a single truth to grow roots. Confuse the soil, and nothing permanent will grow without your permission. To rule is to endure solitude. No counsel is pure, no alliance eternal. Every whisper carries intent, every loyalty is transactional. If you seek to be loved, you will become dependent. If you demand honesty, you will find performance. The sovereign must accept this. Trust is not given, it is simulated. Your generals, your ministers, your closest advisors, they are not your friends. They are fragments of the machine. Use them as such. Rotate them, test them, let them compete. Let no one settle into permanence. Comfort breeds plots. Uncertainty breeds obedience. Every public gesture is a weapon. Every silence is a message. Every smile has weight. You are never not performing, but the performance must be seamless, not theatrical, but inevitable. You must become the axis around which others spin. Your presence must shape the room before you speak. Your absence must linger after you've left. The state is not a moral utopia, but neither is it a lifeless mechanism. It breathes through the will of its ruler. Sacrifices will be required, and bonds may break, but a wise prince does not discard humanity entirely. He preserves appearances of virtue to steady the hearts of his subjects. If you cannot balance necessity with seeming compassion, you are unfit to lead. Pity is corrosive. It erodes clarity. It weakens judgment. Feel it if you must, but never act from it. The ruler who pities too often becomes a servant of sentiment, and sentiment, in the world of power, is a ghost that lures you into open ground. You must know what must be done, and you must do it, even when it poisons your nights. Even when no one will ever know what you spared them. Especially then, the weight of command is not in the decisions you announce, it is in the burdens you bury. Men crave stability, but they worship spectacle. You must provide both. Govern with order, but rule with awe. Let your reign be a narrative too grand to question. The more magnificent the mask, the less they will ask what lies beneath it. The masses remember victories, not origins. They do not care how you rose, only that you do not fall. So rise by any means but once ascended. Sanctify your path. Rewrite history. Illuminate your necessity. Frame every past act as a step toward this inevitable now. Make them believe you were always meant to be here. You are not merely a ruler. You are an architect of perception, a composer of fear, a master of momentum. Your weapon is inevitability. Your shield is consequence. And your throne, if you hold it well, is not a seat, but a symbol, not of who you are, but of what must be. Do not confuse longevity with strength. Many reigns are long, but hollow. Endurance without influence is stagnation dressed as success. The goal is not to last, it is to shape the age, to alter the course so completely that your absence would unravel the world you've constructed. Power is not measured in years. It is measured in how deeply your will penetrates the fabric of the era. All alliances are masks. Beneath every handshake lies a calculation. The wise ruler sees not the gesture, but the intention behind it, the angle of the wrist, the tension of the fingers, the glance that lingers too long. Know this, when they call you friend, they are testing your gates. When they offer peace, they are counting your weapons. Accept diplomacy, but never trust it. Talk as though peace is eternal. Plan as though war is inevitable. The modern ruler does not wage war with armies alone. He wages it with influence, with currency, with secrets. Wars are now fought in boardrooms, on networks, through whispers that travel faster than bullets. He who controls the flow of fear controls the terrain of loyalty. Today's general is a strategist of perception, and perception is won in the shadows. You must never become predictable. Predictability is vulnerability. Routine is the cradle of assassination. Change your patterns. Shift your tone. Keep even your allies off balance. They must never know which version of you walks through the door. To be unreadable is to be untouchable. Power does not forgive rest. The moment you believe yourself secure, the decay begins. Your enemies do not sleep. Their ambition sharpens in your silence. So you must always move, even in stillness. Plot when others feast. Listen when others speak. Act when others delay. That is the rhythm of dominion. The crowd is always watching, not with understanding, but with hunger. They want to believe in strength, in providence, in the myth of leadership. Feed them stories, not details. Feed them certainty, not doubt. Show them the shape of victory, and they will not ask about the scaffolding behind it. They are not citizens, they are spectators. Rule accordingly. Do not eliminate all dissent. Let some remain, visible, loud, but contained. They serve a purpose, a reminder of chaos, a measure of contrast. The people must always see the alternative as worse. Let them fear what would rise if you fall. Then they will cling to your rule not out of love, but out of survival. You will be betrayed. You will be slandered. You will be hunted if not by swords, then by words. The higher you climb, the more sacred your fall becomes to those who envy you. But this is not tragedy. This is validation. Only the powerful are hated with devotion. Let their hatred prove your influence. When you are tested, respond not with anger, but with calculation. Anger reveals. Precision conceals. The impulse to retaliate is natural, but power is not nature. It is design. Vengeance is most effective when it arrives unexpected, detached, surgical, not as a scream, but as a silence that suffocates. Build no structure without exit. Every alliance, every edict, every empire must contain a door through which you may vanish or strike. The art of leadership lies not in permanence, but in positioning. Be at the center, but never trapped. Be present, but never dependent. The moment you cannot retreat, you have already lost. It is better to be respected than understood. Understanding invites sympathy. Respect invites restraint. Your depth must remain unseen. Speak in terms they can grasp, but operate on levels they cannot follow. Let them think you simple so long as they obey. Let them think you soft so long as they fear to test you. Fear is a tool, but it must be sharpened, not abused. If all they know is terror, they will eventually forget why they serve. Let fear alternate with favor. Let the people taste security. Then, when you withdraw it, the void will remind them who held the walls intact. Control need not be loud, but it must be visible. A wise ruler appears often enough to remind the people of his presence, but never so often as to become common. He balances fear and favor, for power fades if it is unseen, and breeds hatred if it is overbearing. People do not notice it until it shifts, and when it shifts, they panic. Your hand must be like gravity, invisible, inescapable, taken for granted until it disappears. Even mercy must serve strategy. Forgive not out of kindness, but out of advantage. Mercy buys silence, loyalty, information, but only if they believe it rare. If you forgive too often, it ceases to be mercy and becomes habit, and habit, in the realm of power, is weakness. Make your rule a contradiction. Be feared and admired. Be visible and unknowable. Be ruthless and fair. Confuse those who would map you. If they cannot define you, they cannot destroy you. Ambiguity is a shield more impenetrable than iron. Never apologize for your will. The world is not moved by hesitation. It is shaped by the unrelenting. Those who speak of compassion without sacrifice are not leaders, they are ornaments. Decoration for the stage, not architects of its foundations. Leadership is not a virtue. It is a burden accepted by those willing to bear the consequences of command. If you must fall, fall as a legend. Let your collapse be so dramatic that it frightens others from following your path. Let your enemies inherit not victory, but instability. Poison the throne for those who steal it. Make your legacy a warning. Power taken lightly is power lost violently. And when your reign ends, for all reigns do vanish with dignity, but leave behind a silence loud enough to echo for generations. That silence, shaped by your deeds, your threats, your victories, your betrayals, will outlive you. It will remind the world that once there was a mind that moved empires, unseen but undeniable. And in that silence you will remain, not as a name, but as a force. To lead is to disappear behind the effect. The ruler who seeks credit weakens the spell. Influence is strongest when unclaimed, when others believe the decision was their own. Plant the seed, vanish from view, and let the harvest bear your signature without your name. That is the perfection of control when your will becomes indistinguishable from reality itself. Beware the seduction of spectacle. Grandeur has its place, but too much of it suffocates. The people do not need constant fire. They need rhythm. A ruler who dazzles without pause soon finds himself eclipsed by his own glow. Let there be stillness. Let the myth breathe. Let them forget your presence just long enough to remember their need for it. The wise sovereign limits visibility. Mystery is power. What is seen too often loses its edge. What is spoken too freely becomes predictable. Be scarce. Let them hunger for your voice, your gaze, your judgment. In that hunger lies reverence. In that space between appearances, authority deepens. Manipulation is not deception for its own sake. It is the shaping of possibility. You do not lie to mislead, you lie to construct, to open doors that would otherwise remain locked, to narrow choices until what remains feels fated. The most effective manipulation is not a trick. It is a structure, a design so complete they do not realize they've been moved until it's done. Even silence must be strategic. When you say nothing, they will fill the void. Some will fear, some will fantasize, but all will react. That is influence without effort. Learn when to withdraw your voice, and let their imaginations do the labor of your legacy. Sometimes fear of your return is more powerful than your presence. Never believe in finality. Every victory sows seeds of future threat. Every ally you raise becomes a potential rival. Every institution you build becomes a vessel for someone else's ambition. Your task is not to finish the game, but to stay a step ahead always. There is no end, only a shifting field. You must master the language of appearances. Justice must look fair. Punishment must appear necessary. Cruelty must wear the mask of principle. The crowd will tolerate any horror if it arrives dressed as law. But strip the veil, and they will turn on you not because you did wrong, but because you broke the illusion. Ideology is not belief, it is architecture. It is the framework within which people justify their obedience. Feed it when needed, starve it when it obstructs, bend it when it resists. Never let doctrine outrank survival. Belief systems must serve the state, not command it. Do not seek to eliminate contradiction. Rule through it. Harness the tension between opposites. Be the protector and the predator. Be the light and the shadow. People crave simple answers, but they obey those who embody complexity. Contradiction is not weakness. It is camouflage. There will be moments when your own conscience awakens, when the weight of your choices presses against the shell of your reason. Do not run. Do not repent. Remember, you did not choose this path for comfort. You chose it because someone must bear the cost. The leader is the vessel of history's violence. If not you, it would be another, perhaps worse, perhaps clumsier. Wear the burden like armor. The machinery of the state is emotionless. It requires maintenance, not meaning. It consumes lives, generates order, creates myths. Your role is not to love the machine. Your role is to keep it alive, even if it robs you of sleep, even if it hollows you from within. There is no noble death in politics, only interruption, only replacement, only the cold continuity of necessity. The people will chant your name, Not because they love you, but because you validate their need for structure. They do not sing for the man. They sing for the feeling he provides, the illusion that someone understands the storm, that someone stands between them and the abyss. Be that illusion, be that barrier. Remember always, sentiment is the language of the ruled. Strategy is the language of the ruler. Do not speak like them. Think above them. Govern from a height they cannot comprehend. Their approval is not your compass. Their survival is your justification. Let them curse you if they eat. Let them weep if the streets remain clean. The state is not their friend, it is their parent. And like all children, they will hate what disciplines them, even as it keeps them safe. You are not immortal, but your design can be. If you build carefully, if you cut away compromise, if you inscribe your logic into the very gears of the system, your presence will echo beyond your breath. Make yourself indispensable not as a man, but as a pattern, as a principle embedded in the machine. In private, you may ache, you may regret, but never let the architecture tremble. Let your inner ruins be your secret. The ruler must always appear complete, even as the wind howls inside. That is the cost, that is the sacrifice, not death, but the slow erosion of the self for the permanence of command. There is no redemption, there is no final peace. There is only the knowledge that the world needed order, and you gave it form, that men are fragile, but systems endure, that your hand shaped the age, even as it trembled in the dark. And when they speak of you as they will let them argue over your soul, let them divide into praise and condemnation, it means you mattered. It means your shadow remains. Let them hate the mask, but remember the order it maintained. Let them burn your image, but keep your laws. You were not here to be forgiven. You were here to decide, to draw the line, to make the cost clear. Bait them with ego, break them with consequence, and let history whisper your name in the places where silence once ruled. And so, you arrive at the precipice, the final edge where the game ends, not with triumph, but with understanding. The empire stands, the streets hum with order. Your enemies are dust, your allies silent. You have outlived the applause, the masks are worn thin. The crown weighs heavier now, not because it is threatened, but because there is no one left to threaten it. This is what they never tell you. Power is not glory, power is maintenance, a quiet, ceaseless vigilance, a throne built not on dreams, but on discipline. The ruler's true reward is not admiration. It is solitude vast, echoing, unyielding. You are the final witness to your own necessity. Look at what you've built, not with pride, not with sorrow, but with precision. The machine turns because you bled for it. The borders hold because you chose clarity over comfort. The people sleep because you taught them fear, then fed them peace. They will never thank you. They will never know what you prevented. And that, too, is by design. You did not seek to be loved. You did not beg to be understood. You carved a place in history through silence, control, and consequence. And that is enough. Let them call you ruthless. Let them say you ruled without a heart. Only you will know how many times you chose restraint over revenge, structure over spectacle, permanence over personal salvation. Let them speak. Let them write. Their words are your monument, even when etched in contempt. You were not the hero. You were not the villain. You were the hinge on which history turned. And when the end finally comes, not with a blade, not with rebellion, but with stillness greeted, not as a failure, but as a closing door, you have played the part, you have borne the cost. And now, the shadow you cast is longer than the man who made it. Leave no legacy of innocence. Leave only structure. Leave only the memory of order. Leave only a silence so vast, it echoes your discipline.